Hey everyone, Tim here from Snap Attack. Bonus Threat SnapShot, let's dig in. So wanted to cover 3 more CVEs, rounding up some of the top ones from December and January of this year. And really this is just because our research team puts out so much great content. First one I'm going to highlight is in SharePoint server. It is a privilege escalation vulnerability. So if you have an on-prem SharePoint server, be sure to apply the patch. And if not, we've got detections and other stuff covered where you can see, was I exploited in the past, or make sure you're alerted if there is any exploitation activity in the future. So this one actually comes from the Pwn to Own contest. If you're not familiar with that, it is a opportunity where researchers can come up with and put out 0 days with the vendors, work in a manner of responsible disclosure, and get a lot of cash in the process. So this one was affecting SharePoint. If you want to actually see, some of the research, we've got the original article here. This is part 2 of a longer blog post, and you can understand some of their methodology. I think they've got a little picture in here which kind of summarizes it, where, when you're doing this sort of research, you think, oh, it's going to be, so easy, find some vulnerabilities in here, and again, you can kind of see the reality, like, were there old bugs that were patched correctly, or other vectors that where there's variants there, and eventually you do find that new attack surface and you get it. So a very interesting read if you want to kind of get more in depth of how this works. There's a couple of different authentication modules that allow this bypass that were identified, and it's a pretty easy attack. So we're going to dive into Snap Attack. We'll show you what this looks like here. We've got a Windows SharePoint server set up. Nothing really fancy about that. And then we've got this Linux attacker. So as we've said, there are POCs available. We can just kind of open this up and we'll watch this. Again, it's basically, point and click here. We ran the POC. You're going to see that we do have, code execution. The login is system. So this is SharePoint running in an elevated account. And we can, then run commands based on that. How would I, hunt? How would I detect for this opportunity? So because this is using some of those authentication modules and network activity, we find network detections to be the most useful here. One of them in particular is part of the prerequisite on how you can actually get all the information you need. So you see this request to this endpoint, the site users. It's unauthorized, so it's somebody trying to hit this, and it's with an empty bearer token, which is why you get that unauthorized request. So this combination gives them one of the details needed, and you can kind of see that full write-up here. So again, if I extract that empty token, I can get the realm, which is one of the parts here. There's a valid client ID that's with all of them, and then you just need the host name of the server for this POC to work. So that network detection is pretty good for threat hunting as well as alerting. Moving on, let's talk through another vulnerability. So if you have Splunk in your enterprise, have an on-prem hosted version, this one is for you. There is a remote code execution vulnerability in Splunk Enterprise based on one of their XML parsing libraries. So this was a CVE, came out in December, put together some of the content here. There are a lot more kind of prerequisites for this one, but it's still exploitable. I believe Splunk internally, again, when they rated the CV, they gave it an 8 out of 10, so it's still pretty severe. Some of these are, again, default configuration. So if you have credentials for the job endpoint, enable search jobs XSL, the templating language is going to be true by default. You have to set a couple of things, and you can see here where you have this insecure XSL, where they're able to, again, launch commands. You can see this, bin sh running, trying to, create a reverse shell, and then you can load this this template in, and that will work. So pretty simple, in theory. If you want a deeper dive on how this works, this is a really good blog post where, again, security researchers, when a vendor discloses a high risk vulnerability, there isn't a POC out there. You can go through, you can do patch diffing. This is actually a lot easier in say Splunk, where it's a lot of Python under the hood. where you're just looking at raw code. You don't have to reverse engineer, do like a binary diff and see what changed. So this kind of goes to that process again, how we can use that malicious XSL template and craft that exploit. So went ahead, we ran this in SnapAttack, and I will say there are two versions here because this does work on Linux as well. I'm going to focus on the Windows one, but a lot of the same things you're going to see would also apply to the Linux version too. So, weird, file creation events, weird process events, things of that nature. Not a whole lot to say on the Windows side. We have, Splunk running here. We're going to hop over to our Linux attacker where we have the POC that we're going to run. So again, we target the Splunk instance. We have credentials, username, password. This POC is going to basically do all the things that we have. So I'm going to go back and pause. We can take a quick look at what happened here. So we authenticated. We got the CSRF token, cross-site request forgery, so we could go ahead, we can make commands. We upload that file, we create a job search, which is going to actually trigger that template file to be used, and then we're going to write a reverse shell to disk, and then we can actually go ahead and run that. We'll do that here in a moment. We'll see the reverse shell come in, and then we can start running commands like, who am I? Again, running a system. You get the drill from here. So good news too, this is very detectable on Windows, on Linux. It's always fun watching Splunk. It creates a lot of child processes if you haven't known. So suspicious child process of Splunk is still a thing, but you've got to do a lot of filtering and got to kind of know what you're looking at here. So Splunkd, again, spawns itself, spawns Python 3. Makes a lot of sense if you know Splunk under the hood. And Python is spawning CMD. Okay, that's getting a little weird, which is spawning PowerShell with my little reverse shell. That's also weird. This command line, again, that template part is weird. And, this chain is something that is detectable here. We'll talk about that in a minute. Like I did say, we do have a similar version on Linux. For sake of time, I'm not going to kind of cover it, but you can see similar detection opportunities here. How would I detect, how would I hunt for this threat? File events, file creation events is, again, an interesting piece. Like we said, it's going to write that template to disk. You might even write, reverse shells or things so we can see, that XSL file being dropped here. That would be a good opportunity. And again, have a similar version here on Linux. So it's just Splunkd, again, with the Linux file path, creating that file within the Splunk directory. Suspicious processes of Splunk, again, another good opportunity here. Seeing if it's running anything that is, inside or outside of the path, or seeing things that are running in there. You can see, our CMD is spawning a Splunk script. Again, that's the thing that we uploaded here. So that's an opportunity. Very similar detection that you would see on the Linux side. This works as well. Network traffic. Again, another opportunity here if that's sort of your thing. You could go ahead, you can look for that file, again, being uploaded, looking for that XSL file. And so that is something that would appear in the network traffic. Do have attack scripts too in the platform. So if this is something that you wanted to, replicate, test to see if this is going to affect your environment, we can, emulate and mirror that command that's going to run, and we'll be able to see that. All right, moving on to the third and final vulnerability we want to cover today. Atlassian Confluence server. Hit again. Seen a lot of these server template injection vulnerabilities. This is another new spin. Not going to go into this too much, but again, just kind of high level. Confluence, it's like a wiki site. You can, do documentation. Obviously, there's a lot of customizability there, and you can even do some, again, templating with things. So they use the Velocity template engine. This is what's the vulnerable piece here. You can see some examples here where, you can actually get that code. There has been research that's been done in the past on, Velocity and how you can, chain things together to execute code. So you can see like the template execute command. So, this is something that we can, actually go through and attack, and we'll see those, exploit chains together in the captured threat. This is something that, again, is highly relevant. It's been in the news this week. Say what you will about the CVSS scoring system. This one got a perfect 10. It's a dime. Yes, CVSS scores may be inflated, but again, just based on, the complexity, based on, not requiring authentication, a lot of other stuff, this one is high risk. So if you do have Confluence in your enterprise patch, and you definitely use these detections for threat hunting, see if there's any exploitation activity, and also, keeping you safe until a patch can be applied. So let's actually go ahead. Let's take a look at this threat. We've got this here running on a Windows server. Not a lot interesting. You can just see Confluence is up. I'm going to kind of open up the video and we'll head over to the attacker side. So there's a couple pieces. Like I said, we're going to stage a backdoor, get a reverse shell, and then we're going to run some commands. So have a couple of those things started up. So we are going to post to that endpoint with the template, and that was really quick. So you can see here we're doing that curl command to download miniature PowerShell reverse shell. So we're doing some staging here. We're going to actually then execute that with another command to say, hey, I want to run that. This is going to run that, and you can see our reverse shell. We have a callback running as NT Authority Network Service. So we have code execution here. Good news, again, very detectable. You can see that on the process graph. So Confluence, again, it's a Java application, so you're going to see, Java running as a process. You're going to see Tomcat. These actually spawn out of Tomcat, or however it's being run as a web server. So you can see Tomcat 9 spawning curl for that initial download. That's going to download that PowerShell mini reverse shell that we have, and then we're going to use that to execute commands and interact with it. So very obviously here, a couple of detection opportunities. We'll dive in, we'll talk about those. The actual template injection itself, this is a good opportunity if you've got network detections. You can inspect the content of the post body and you'll be able to see that, yep, there's a template here. Got some of those key things like the execute command. You can see some of the required Unicode characters and things that allow this to work. So this is, again, a very high fidelity, this is the attack going on. Obviously, there's a lot of artifacts left on the host machine itself, so you can look for file creation events, specifically what is Confluence creating or writing. We have that PowerShell, but you could imagine you could write executables, DLLs, batch files, other sort of code. Anything that's going to allow you to continue on your attack path here. So file creation event is a good one. This is another good evergreen one. This was updated 2 years ago, but this is an older detection, and again, it's still reliable. So these generic evergreen detections work really well because again, these vulnerabilities share a lot of common, post-exploitation artifacts. So this was a 2021 CVE, very similar with another template injection for Confluence. And because Confluence is in this path, maybe we were on a different Tomcat version, doesn't really matter. We see that spawning CMD. We can see some opportunities here. We can see this is also picking up, some of these other newer versions. Again, great behavioral detection. This is why you have behavioral detections in your arsenal. You don't have to worry about chasing the latest CVEs necessarily if you have these, more evergreen, more behavioral detections, because they're going to find that activity. So always good, always recommend that customers have these in their environments. And again, sweat a little less on the CVEs as they come out, even if they are a perfect 10. Last piece is, again, we like to emulate these, so we do have an attack script if you wanted to go ahead and emulate this attack in your network. This is going to simulate that network traffic and do that download execute to see if you have defenses that can detect that. So that is our extended bonus threat snapshot for this week. It is a weekly series. Like, subscribe, comment below the video, and we'll see you next time.